Detecting election fraud using Benford's law. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Grab your stein of coffee or your cup of joe, because we're going to look at detecting election fraud using Benford's law and how you can do it at home. So what is Benford's law? Well, it's also called the Newcomb Benford law, the law of anomalous numbers, or the first digit law. Is an observation about the frequency distribution of leading digits in many real-life sets of numerical data. So if the digits were numerically distributed uniformly, there'd be 11.1% each of the time. But as you can see by the little graphics here, that's not the case. It's not the case. So one thing that's been going around, I'll show you first two videos that I think you should have a look at. We'll jump over here. This is one from Numberphile. This is number 1 in Benford's law. It's an older video from 2013, but it is just fantastic in how it explains this law, how it works, and how people use it for detecting fake numbers, dodgy accounting, that type of thing, potentially detecting fraud. Fantastic video. I highly recommend everyone has a look at it. Then there's a second video, and this is from a, what is it? Hindfield Merchant Co. So a practice, a business that does fraud analysis on accounting and different things. And the young lady here in this video just explains how they use their software and how they analyze different data. That's also just quite interesting and fascinating to give you a quick overview of this law, and I would highly recommend it. Now, one thing that's been doing the rounds has been this data here from GitHub. So, first, data digit visualization of in selected county cities in the 2020 presidential election. And you can see here what they've got is they've got the distribution from Benford's law right here in the red line, and they've got the data, and you're saying, oh, wait a minute, that looks a bit dodgy. That's 7 up there. Oh, look, what's going on here? What's going on here? Okay, yep. Ooh, hang on, what's happening in Milwaukee over here? Look at that. Oh, what's happening in Chicago? Look at that. So, and people, and I myself am also sharing this, going, what's going on here? Now, right now in the US election, there's a lot of contention. There's people who are declaring that Biden is the office of president-elect, which isn't a thing. The media is declaring it. You've got the Electoral College have to make the decision. They haven't. Now, Trump and the Republicans are taking legal action to ensure the integrity of the election. Some people are going, no, just trust the results, trust the results. Well, 4 years of the media just pushing forward theories and having no faith in the electoral system, you can forgive people for not trusting the electoral system over there. And the more I learn about it, the more I appreciate, our Australian Electoral Commission here, how you can access to the data and all of these things. It's just fantastic. We also have, we've got a paper system. There isn't a computer system overseas like in America. That's apparently buggy too. So there's a lot of things that are worrying people. There's a lot of things that are concerning people, and there's a lot of people coming out with allegations of potential fraud that's targeted in certain areas. So there's a reason why, people are a bit skeptical of the outcome. You also have to understand there's a whole lot of people out there who literally think Orange Man is bad. And, it could just be that a whole lot of them just turned out, said Orange Man bad, I don't care about the rest, and put it in. That could be why the Republicans are doing so well in the Senate, in the House, and the legislature, everywhere else, except for Trump's presidency. That could also be an option, But there's time, and there's an electoral council. This is the US is a republic, and it's set up in a way to kind of deal with this, and this is just part of the process. Now, going back to Benford's law, let's have a look at doing it. Let's do these charts ourselves to have a look at where we've gotten it from and to learn something new. At very least, we can walk away with a little bit of a new skill, and that's the benefit of it. You can all do this at home. Now, where did this data come from? Apparently, I found it here on GitHub, and I will link to that, and you can download it. You can see they've got it here. apparently it came from here, from different places around the country, you know, where they've data mined it. This is the thing with the US, everyone, because, I mean, we'll go here, we'll go home, because it's so, you know, big, and every county and every state has potentially different rules, and it's just a mess. It really is. Where here in Australia, I can go to the AEC, get the results from any election, and just look at the data. So let's have a look at this data here. I'm just going to bring this up on my main screen. Okay, so this is what I've downloaded from it. This is the Chicago data, the export here. What you have is you've got the total number of votes, you've got the precinct, and then who the votes were for. Okay, so you've got Joseph R. Biden, Kamala Harris, Trump, Pence, and then you've got Hawkins, Walker, and all the others. And you can see how many people voted in each ward, or sorry, each precinct. Then it's divided up by ward. So what did I do with this data to try and get this? Well, I just focused on the Joseph and Kamala because, well, their data came up with the more interesting figures here and here. Okay, so I thought I'd have a look at that. So I did the sums. What I did is I copied all of the results from each ward, the number of votes for Kamala and Biden, because, well, if they're going to be fraudulent, that would be how it would manifest, either in ballot stacking or with people computer errors later. So there's two ways to do it. Now, the way that we're all seeing everywhere is the first digit analysis. So what you do is, you just copy the data here in your data set, right here. Great, I can't sneeze. I'm going to have a coffee then. Okay, so we copy the data here. Then we pull the first digit off. Now, to do that in Excel, you use this command up here, equals left, and then, the location, and E16 in my case, and then 1. If I were to change that to 2, watch, the number will be the second digit, or if I change it to 3, and we'll do that now quickly, it'll change it to, well, it'll give me the first 3 numbers, okay? So it counts from the left. That's how many numbers you want to do. Okay, so you do all of that for every single one. Now, when you do a formula, you can just do select and Control and D on Excel to copy it down. Okay, Control D is fantastic to copy things down. Okay, so we've got our first digit. Now I want to do a count of the first digit, and that's either going to be, the first digit will either be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. It won't be 0, will it? And then, so I just wrote those numbers. Then I wanted to count how many of this number occurred in this column, in column FF. So what I wrote count if, and I selected F to F, as you can see here, in this column here, FF, and then the number I wanted to check was for 1. So how many times 1 appeared there? And I've got the occurrence, which is the total number, the total count, which was the sum of these numbers, then that divided by that. Okay, so J16 divided by that, turned into a percentage, gives me the occurrence of that number. I did the same thing for number 2, 3, 4, and you can see right here how you can calculate it. And I will give this Excel spreadsheet, I'll have it up on my website. You can find it in the pinned comments if you want to play with it yourself. But it's a good it's a good thing to go through just in case you want to analyze any data. Come on, guys, it's skills. And, upgrading your Excel skills is always useful. So this is the distribution here. Now, here we have the Benford's distribution. And it's generally a logarithmic distribution. And we're not going to get into that. And I'll bring up some papers where people are discussing this. And you can look at that in your own time. But this is the easiest for me to just represent it easily here. So 1 should appear 30.1% of the time in your data sample. And this doesn't work with, the scale of the data sample is important too. The bigger it is, the more likely it's going to manifest like this. Then 17%. Then 12%, 9%, 7.9, and 6. So what I did is I charted, on this chart, I've got Benford's as a line, which is this data here, And then I've got the first digit occurrence. And we can see, look at that. Look at that significant amount there. So number 3 should only be coming up at 12.5% of the time, but it's actually coming up 32.8% of the time in this data. And we're all looking there going, wow, that's crazy. What's going on there? You know, could that be fraud? People are sharing it. Could it be? Well, this is where we need to look at a few papers to look at this, what's going on here. So first I want to look at this, or just show you, and I'll again link to this. And what we'll do is we'll go here so we can see everything here. What we've got here is we've got not the first digit, using Benford's law to detect fraudulent scientific data. And this is by Andreas Deichmann from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in 2004. And he didn't put his picture on there. Guys, I put that on there so you can get an understanding of who the gentleman is. Okay? So let's just go through the abstract here. Digits in statistical data produced by natural or social processes are often distributed in a manner described by Benford's law. Recently, a test against this distribution was used to identify fraudulent accounting data. This test is based on the supposition that real data follows Benford's distribution while fabricated data does not. And as if you had to watch that video from the accounting practice, that's the same argument they make. But see, then the thing is also, if people are going to do something fraudulently, you try and set it up so you're meeting Benford's law, but that's another argument. So is it possible to apply Benford's test to detect fabricated or falsified scientific data as well as fraudulent financial data? We approach this question in two ways. First, we examine the use of Benford's distribution as a standard by checking digit frequencies in published statistical estimates. Second, we conducted experiments in which subjects were asked to fabricate statistical estimates, regression coefficients. These experimental data was scrutinized for possible deviations from Benford's distribution. There were two main findings. First, the digits of the published regression coefficients were approximately Benford distribution. Second, the experimental results yielded new insight into the strengths and weaknesses of Benford's test. At least in the case of regression coefficients, there were indications that checking for digit preference anomalies should focus less on the first and more on the second and higher digits. Because what they found here, they had a bunch of economists and social science students generate some data for them fraudulently to try and prove the argument that increasing minimum wage or welfare decreases the amount of work people will do. So they tried to do that, and we'll scroll down here, and I'll link to this if you want to go through the whole paper. It's a good read. We can see here. I mean, these are the different distributions. So this was unstandardized regression coefficient. So this, you can see here, this is the data they got. It's generally conforming with Benford's law. We go here. This is the first digit. This is second digit. Okay, so they're both aligning. And this is where for the fabricated results. And you can see here with the fabricated result, it's generally in conformance with Benford's law. Sure, it's a little bit different in the first digit, but not that much. Not as drastic as what we're seeing. And here you've got the fabricated results for the second one. And you can see here definitely there's a difference in the data there. So that's what they're suggesting. Now, another thing to consider is the methodology that these students, and it's not clearly articulated in this paper. I'm assuming here that the students were probably filling it out on paper, drawing it by hand. Now, is there a difference in the outcome if you do it by hand or if you do it by numbers? And here we go. You can see again there, fabricated for the second digit. And they went all the way up to different digits. And they had individual subjects. So it's a small sample size, but still it was interesting to see these changes. Now, there's another paper here, another one. This is a thesis by Michelle S. Brown, and she also discusses that, it's more and more about the second number. But we've got another paper here, and I'll link to all of these. I'm not going to go through these ones because there's one I really want to go through. a comment on Benford's law and detection of electoral fraud. You know, in Benford's law and detection of electoral fraud, Derek Mayagov and Ord Shook argue against so-called second-digit Benford's law test, which Mebane, 2006, and he's a name you got to remember, asserts shows strong promise to become a standard tool for detecting fraudulent election results. Of course, Mebane goes on to say the 2BL test cannot detect all kinds of fraud, and significant 2BL test results may occur even when vote counts are in no way fraudulent, but one should perhaps not expect too much from a test that has only the vote counts themselves to work with. Now, what I think we should jump to, and this is very topical, this is written by Walter Mebane, and where I had a picture of him somewhere. Where did I get it? Here he is. Here he is. Here's the guy. Okay, so he's well known in this field. He's well known in this field. So let's have a look. This paper is from yesterday. Inappropriate applications of Benford's law, regularities to some data from the 2020 election of the United States. Now, before we go through this, I also did a second digit test, which you can do yourself. And I'll show you what I did. So I just used the same data that I had here, the exact same data, and then I pulled a second digit. Now, what I had to do, it's a little different here with the second digit. First, you need to pull 2 digits from the left in. Okay, so the first step is, and I'll draw it, here we go, equal left. Sorry, equal left. Okay, and what do I want to get? I want to get that data, and how many characters I want to get? I want to get 2 from the left, and watch what happens. Okay, and that gives me 55 because it's taken 2 characters from the left. But then, now that I have that data, I want to go from the right 1. So from the right, I want to get 1. So what I'll do is, I'll put right, and I'll say this left data is my text, and then I'll go 1, and there. And that's how you have to get the second digit. That's how you get that formula up there to get the second digit, guys. And then we do the same thing down here with it, where we do a second digit count. And again, it's 0. Well, sorry, no, this time it's 0, because 0 could be the second digit. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You count it, the second digit occurrence, and then Benford's, because it's, well, the distribution of the second digit is different to the first digit as well. And here we have that same data looking at the second digit. Now, it's not as dramatic, is it? It's not as dramatic. And many more people are saying that you shouldn't even do the first digit for political polling. You should look at the second digit. So is that as dramatic, guys? If this one here you could argue is an indicator of fraud, you could say, oh, that one probably isn't an indicator of fraud. So let's have a look at this paper written by Mebane to get his perspective on this data and how Benford's law is being used. So, as vote counting is drawing to a close in the 2020 presidential election in the United States, some are claiming that that application of Benford's law to the precinct vote counts from a few counties and cities give evidence of election fraud. The displays shown at those sources use the first digit of precinct vote counts data from Fulton County, GA, and several other counties in Milwaukee and Chicago. And it says nothing about possible frauds. So using the data provided at GitHub, which I showed you, and from the county results, which reportedly the data used to produce the displays, I'll here briefly try to explain what's going on in the data. It is widely understood that the first digits of precinct vote counts are not useful for trying to diagnose election frauds. See, for example, the discussion of Carter Center, 2005, and Perichi Torres, 2011. The first digit is largely determined by the number of voters in each precinct. As usually, and especially in small jurisdictions such as individual cities and counties, the share of the votes received by parties or candidates does not vary all that greatly across precincts. Consider, for example, the densities in Figure 1 for votes from Chicago. Does he have that here? Yes. The Biden-Harris ticket on average received a proportion of about 0.28 of the votes, and the figures show the shape of the Biden-Harris vote count distribution pretty closely mirrors the shape of the distribution of votes cast. Trump-Pence received an average of about 0.17 of the votes, but the Trump-Pence vote count distribution has a couple of hitches. For low counts, the distribution reflects that in many precincts, Trump-Pence vote counts are single digits. Clearly, the first digits of the Biden-Harris counts will most frequently be 3, 4, or 5. That's non-Benford's law pattern simply reflects the distribution of precinct sizes, presuming turnout did not vary that much across the city. Given the strong support for Biden-Harris across the whole city, the first digit distribution has nothing whatsoever to do with any kind of election fraud. The vote counts from the 4 jurisdictions are not final, so one should treat them cautiously. Nonetheless, preliminary analysis shows little that suggests there are problems. For instance, consider results from the Election Forensic Toolkit, Higgins and Mebane 2015 and Mebane 2015. For Milwaukee, Figure 2, and Allegan County, Figure 3, no statistic exhibits a value that is statistically distinguishable from the value usually thought to occur in an election in which nothing usually happens. And there you have it. For Fulton County, Figure 4. Figure 4 was that. Sorry, Figure 2, 3, 4 down here. For Fulton County, Figure 4. A few statistics have statistically distinguishable values, but these are probably benign. The DIP-T results are due to bimodality, that is evident in the densities shown in Figure 5. Some precincts lean slightly in favor of Trump-Pence, while more overwhelmingly favor Biden-Harris. The PO5S value for Dem total votes might be a concern, but notice that the PSO5 value for Rep total votes nearly exceeds the expected value of 0.2 as well. For Chicago, Figure 6, PO5S is slightly elevated for Biden-Harris, and CO5S is slightly elevated for Trump-Pence. The differences from the expected values of 0.2 are small. The 2BL test, based on the second digit and Benford's law digit probabilities, Mebane 2014, shows second digit means that differ significantly from 4.187 for both Biden-Harris and Trump-Pence. The Trump-Pence results is perfectly compatible with non-strategic votes. See Mebane Figure 2013. See Mebane 2013 Figure 2. While the results for Biden-Harris is harder to explain, but it matches results observed in some German elections, Mebane 2013 Figure 22, that are generally not considered to be problematic. For the 2 jurisdictions, there is information about the number of registered voters at each precinct, so I can use eForensics to estimate the occurrence of what the eForensics models considers to be frauds. For Milwaukee, the probability of no fraud, incremental fraud, and extreme fraud are respectively 0.97 for no fraud, 0.18 for incremental fraud, and 0.23 for extreme fraud. For the Allegan County, the probabilities are 0.98, 0.39, 0.0154, and 0.0006. These probabilities correspond to estimates of 1,003.1 eForensic fraudulent votes in Milwaukee and 599 in Allegan County. Negligible amounts that probably neither reflect nor result from bad acts. Final verdicts regarding the election in these and other jurisdictions should await the production of completed vote counts and should draw on additional information about election processes that go beyond mere vote count data. To date, I've not heard of any substantial irregularities having occurred anywhere, and that and the peculiar data sets examined in this paper give essentially no evidence that election fraud has occurred. So what does he have here? Let's have a look at this, the data he's bringing up. So you've got the turnout, the Dems, the Republicans. Where's the voter density? Votes cast, Biden, Harris, Trump, Pence. Biden, Harris, Trump, Pence. So it does seem to make sense with the vote distribution, doesn't it? And this is the Chicago. And his references here. So there we have it, everyone. It looks like the claims that are coming out of GitHub and many people that are sharing it don't seem to indicate election fraud. At least not what people are saying. And if we look at the second digit level of the data, well, it does paint a different picture. What do you all think, everyone? Have you done the analysis yourself? Have a look at the data, do some of the tests. I recommend you watch those videos. I'll link to everything in the pinned comment below. You'll be able to download this Excel and the papers that I've referred to. But it looks like this is a sign that there isn't, no evidence of election fraud based on this statistical data. Now, this is a contentious election. The outcome is going to be very interesting, and it's going to come down to the wire. We'll have to see. What do you all think, everyone? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can just simply join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links you can find down below. Buy our merch from Heise Says or Teespring. Use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next episode.